As the major parties in Ottawa debate the merits and specifics of a public inquiry into foreign interference, more evidence points to this being a major issue in Canada. Now, one of the latest stories, broken by Sam Cooper at the Bureau, highlights how CSIS documents show that influence from Beijing has made its way all the way to Canadian newsrooms. It finds that a representative from the Chinese government allegedly instructed journalists to support the rise of a particular federal candidate. Now, this report comes just weeks after a former RCMP officer was arrested for allegedly conspiring with the Chinese Communist Party to conduct foreign interference in Canada. Well, joining us now to discuss the latest report on foreign interference in the media is the journalist who broke the story, Mr. Sam Cooper, founder and first journalist at the Bureau. Sir, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thanks for having me.
So, according to your reporting, it seems that the Chinese government has infiltrated Chinese language media in Canada. So, can you walk us through what exactly you've researched through your research and your report here?
What the documents that I reviewed say is that over the course of decades, the Chinese Communist Party has taken over many media outlets in Canada. This has scaled up most recently through President Xi Jinping's pouring of more resources into foreign interference. And the documents add that this control is enacted through Chinese consulates influencing and indeed controlling media associations in Canada to the point where many representatives, influential journalists get together and discuss exactly how an item will be reported and that it will be reported in a pro-Beijing manner. Furthermore, the documents directly connect this control of media in Canada to China's recent election interference operations. And these are operations, according to the documents, where media support is offered to candidates that Beijing would see as pro-Beijing. Ultimately, the documents say this is about China's efforts to control mainland China diaspora communities and leverage those communities politically in Canada.
Some very concerning information here, Mr. Cooper. But for some further background, what is the purpose for the Chinese government to infiltrate Chinese Canadian language media in the first place?
The range of documents I reviewed essentially say that the purpose here is Beijing simply wants to influence political outcomes in Canada. And this involves, as I've reported, not only clandestinely funding Beijing's that is, candidates Beijing hopes will support its policies in federal government, but also using media entities in Canada to secretly support certain politicians. So the documents indicate that, again, media is used directly as an intervening tool in Canadian elections.
And it's not just Chinese language media we're talking about here. Your reporting also highlighted that the Chinese government has a strategy for manipulating mainstream media newsrooms. So what does that look like from your research?
That's right. The documents lay out an overarching systematic campaign where Beijing had previously been very defensive, of course, total domestic censorship on their media, also kicking out foreign language journalists that were seen as too critical of Beijing. Now Beijing has gone on the offensive, the Canadian documents say, infusing massive amounts of money to sway international giant media corporations into allegedly, or hopefully in Beijing's view, publishing propaganda that is pro-Beijing. And also, the documents I reviewed said Canadian intelligence assesses Canadian media has been heavily targeted in these campaigns. I'll give you one example, a shocking example. A CSIS investigation uncovered in 2015, the Vancouver Chinese consulate allegedly unrolled a plan attempting to make some unidentified BC television stations pro-Beijing by cultivating relationships with key journalists, high-level managers, all in efforts to exert control over the media companies that they worked for. So serious allegations. And I'll tell you that I checked up on these allegations with Chinese language journalists that cannot be named, most of them, and they say these are totally plausible. And indeed, this is occurring in Canada.
Very concerning information. And Mr. Cooper, just a quick 30 seconds left here, but what are your thoughts on a foreign agent registry to address foreign interference in Canada?
Well, I talked to one of those journalists that was cited in an intelligence document. His name is Victor Ho, a former Vancouver newspaper editor. He testified Canada needs a foreign agent registry in 2020. He said this would compel pro-Beijing media to register. But as we know, the sitting government in Ottawa hasn't followed the recommendations of Mr. Ho or others, such as former Conservative MP Kenny Chiu. So I do believe Canada, like Australia, needs such a registration, and that would deal with media and other elements of China's interference.
Mr. Cooper, thank you again for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back.